The kettle's boiled, Vic.
Great. Perfect timing. Just a dash of milk for me, please, mate.
Here you go. Shall we get started then?
Have you ever woken up on a Sunday morning and said, I'm never drinking again, and then found yourself waving $50 at a barman by happy hour?
Are you wondering why everyone else can stop at 1 while you head to a dodgy after-party with a weird bloke called Disco Dave? If so, it might be time to take a deeper look at your relationship with your reliable social crutch, alcohol.
On each episode, we'll investigate our own dysfunctional dealings with booze and find out if it's possible to stop this deeply ingrained habit before things get too messy.
Yep, we're going to open up a shame shed of humiliating drinking stories to help you understand why waking up from a booze coma each weekend with a kebab sticking out of your top pocket might actually be negatively impacting your health.
Hamish and I are here to delve into what it's like being sober, an unwanted warts and all look into why giving up those cheeky pints or putting down those mummy wines will make you feel happier, help your anxiety and mental health, and turn you into the most sparkly, authentic version of you.
Won't that mean I become boring though, Vic?
Well, Hamish, we'll just have to wait and see. I'm Victoria Vanstone.
I'm Hamish Adams-Cairns.
And this is Sober Awkward.
Vic, I feel like you're going to have a good answer to this.
Right.
What is the least sexy thing you have done recently?
Oh, just generally everything I do is the least sexy thing.
Okay.
Yeah, I tell my husband about hairs in my chin sometimes.
Yeah.
He's like, that's disgusting. I don't want to know about that. I'm like, it's not disgusting. It's my hormones. Deal with it.
The only reason I ask this is I have recently started taping my mouth shut when I go to sleep.
Somebody else was telling me about taping their mouth shut in their sleep.
It is not sexy.
I actually did think it was for menopause. It is something that people do during the menopause.
Oh, really?
Yeah, to stop hot flushes, apparently.
Okay, so no, it's just that nasal breathing is better than mouth breathing at all times.
Okay.
In all situations, including exercise. So this just guarantees that you at least nasal breathe for 8-9 hours a night.
Yeah. Don't try this at home.
What I try and do is watch the show that we're watching, generally agree that now is bedtime, then tape up. Because I have made the mistake of taping before the show, and then Liz asks me questions, and you just...
Taping with what? Masking tape?
No, it's a paper tape. You only do a little strip down the middle, so it's not like the whole of your face. Right. Just a little strip down the middle.
Not kidnap level.
Not kidnap style. And I quite like it now. I find it quite comforting.
Okay, I might try it. Because I'm a terrible breather through my mouth. I always wonder whether spiders are crawling in. And I'm always... Yeah, I'm a terrible mouth breather.
Okay, tape up.
Yeah, so I can't give head very well.
And that is something we all need to know. If you're thinking, I might shut up, Vic, and you're thinking, well, actually, she's not good at head, there you go. Stop chatting her up.
It's actually true. Too much information,
Victoria.
Victoria.
A lot of information.
Yeah, too much. Sorry, guys, that was a bit heavy.
Was it heavy?
I don't know. It wasn't heavy enough. I think maybe we'll have to edit that bit out, Hamish.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Anyway, Hamish is taping up his mouth at night, which is very odd. I don't think we want to go into that anymore. I am going to give a trigger warning for me for what I'm going to say.
Yes, trigger warning for yourself.
Yeah, but also on today's episode, we're going to mention domestic violence, so we thought you guys should know that. The reason we're talking about domestic violence a little bit today is because of a weird situation that triggered me this week, Hamish.
Okay, yes. So you'd written an episode and then something happened this week. You said, hey, the whole episode has to change. Something's happened.
Yes, I thought I wanted to talk. I reconsidered not doing it because I thought, actually, no, on this podcast, we want to talk about everything, don't we? And sometimes we avoid topics because we don't want to do them wrong because they're so heavy. Yeah. And this is kind of one of those topics because we never want to offend anyone. And, we don't want to say the wrong thing and we don't want to give the wrong advice.
Yes.
So, but all we have, me and Hamish, in this podcast is our own experiences. So I'm going to tell you about an experience that I had that affected my life that I thought I'd forgot about, but perhaps I hadn't.
Okay.
I'm going to this boxing class.
Yes.
The sign on the door is, this isn't a bakery, I don't sugarcoat anything.
Nice.
And you go in and it's this amazing woman who was an Olympic judo player. Is it a player or a team member?
Judo. I would go fighter.
a judoist. And she was a fighter for Australia. She's just an incredible trainer. And you go in there and you just have this incredible session. And I thoroughly enjoy boxing, always have. But I've never got in the ring with anyone. I've never hit anyone. I've never done anything like that. But last week, she said, right, Vic, I think you're ready. You're going to get in the ring. You're going to have a spar. So I've been doing all this training and I thought, okay, well, I'll give it a go. And I got in the ring, I didn't have a mouth guard on, I didn't have a headpiece on. And first of all, we were just kind of slapping each other. You do it without any gloves on. And it's, you know, you do slap a little bit hard, but it's just quite good. And you have to try and duck out of the way and you're learning all your boxing moves at the same time. Then she was like, right, put your gloves on. And I was just moving around. I wasn't thinking anything of it. And suddenly I got a right hook in my cheek. I fell back onto the ropes and I was a bit shocked. And it didn't hurt. The only emotion that I had was I felt instantly like crying.
Interesting.
Right. And I didn't know why. And I was really embarrassing because I welled up and I said to the girls, I've got something in my eye. They were like, are you all right? I'm like, I'm fine. It was just a bit of a shock. I wasn't expecting it. I don't know why I wasn't expecting it because I was in a ring having a boxing match. And I didn't know what was going on with me. I was really kind of acting really weird and I just walked out of the classroom and got in the car. It's making me emotional now. And I burst into tears, Hamish. I didn't know why. And I thought, gosh, what's going on with me? Why is this making me feel weird? And I realised that the last time I had been punched in the face was by a man.
Yeah.
Yes. So, yes, sorry, my voice is breaking a bit. But that's the truth. I didn't have... I'm getting sad, sorry.
That's okay. Take your time.
I didn't know that I still had emotions about that situation. So I thought I needed to share it with everybody because I think I just brushed it under the carpet and just looked at it as a shit event that happened in my life and never really perhaps dealt with it.
Yeah.
So here I am, everybody, going to talk about it today. And it was a situation I got myself into with a guy that perhaps wouldn't have happened if I'd been sober. So that's the interesting thoughts that I had about it afterwards. And I went and told the boxing teacher because I thought, I've just walked out. She's going to think there's something wrong with me. And I just walked up to her. Everyone had left and I just went, I thought I'd come back and tell you this brought up emotions in me. It's triggered me because the last time this happened to me was in this toxic relationship that I was in. And she actually said it happens a lot in her class. People are there to fight back sometimes, and sometimes it comes up, memories are jolted because it is something that's happened to a lot of women in their past and it triggers it. It really got me questioning why I had got in that relationship in the first place. And that's what we're going to talk a bit about today. Why do we get in these relationships that are toxic and why do we stay in them and what the role is that alcohol has to play in all of that? I wanted to share this today as it is my story and I realise this may be different from other people out there. So I can only speak for myself when I say I believe that my alcohol intake, my promiscuity because of that and a potential low opinion of myself when drinking had a part to play in me ending up in this horrible situation. I'm not saying that situation was my fault by any means, but the lead up to it and me staying in it had something to do with booze.
Yeah, you could have ducked out at some point, at some stage, you think, if you hadn't been drinking.
I think so. I think I wouldn't have been in that situation at all if I'd been sober. Yeah.
Before we get into it, let me just say thank you for sharing that story.
That's okay.
Because there's no need, you don't need to do this. You don't need to share that story.
Yeah.
This doesn't have to be a conversation that you have on the podcast, but you've chosen to, which is obviously not easy and takes a lot of bravery. And I'm sure there'll be someone listening who'll go, holy shit, that relates to me too. So thank you before we get into it. 'Cause this will not be one of the funnier episodes, I don't think. So,
I don't think it will.
So,
but that's the reason I'm doing it is because I have realisations sometimes about drinking and about sobriety and about my past and what makes me who I am. And that situation, even though it was shit, has made me who I am. And I can see that now. And I take from it what I need to, which is that I've become stronger and that I do boxing classes and I do want to fight back and I do want to talk about these things because a lot of women have been through this more than you could ever imagine. It's something like 2/3 have been in some sort of violent situation at some point.
And quickly, just for the time frame, when was that?
More than 15 years ago. I think it was about 2007.
And you don't think you've thought about it too much in between now and then until that moment you got hit?
No, I think about it and I think, well, that was a shit situation. I have spoken about it in my book because it does relate to my life. It relates to everything. And I do think it has its place within my sobriety journey, that situation. Yeah, it happened a long time ago. I don't dwell on it because I don't. Well, what's the point? What can I do about it? But perhaps emotionally, it never came up in my therapy, for example.
Okay.
I never ever spoke about it because I just brushed it under the carpet and thought, well, that was shit. Let's get rid of it. I never need to think about it again. That was just a fucked up situation. But perhaps that punch has shown me that there is something I still need to deal with, and perhaps that I maybe do need to get therapy about, which would be helpful.
Possibly. Do you now not want to spar again? Do you think that will happen again?
I think perhaps I'm not interested in hurting other people.
Yeah.
It's not something that I want to do. I think I'm going to have a conversation with my boxing teacher and say, look, I love coming for the training. I love coming for the exercise and getting fit. But I'm not sure that me being in a ring with someone is something that I want to learn how to do.
Yeah.
I don't want to learn how to punch someone in the face. Because of perhaps that reason. So I think I will try and still go for the training, but I don't want to do the sparring anymore.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, I don't know how that's going to go down, quite honestly, but we'll see. We'll either be boxing next week or we won't be. Yeah. So today we're going to have a chat about decision making when pissed and where it leads us. Now, I'm sure we've all had a few regretful one-night stands, some sloppy snogs in alleyways, some head over heels in love moments, whirlwind romances, and the odd long-term dud. I think that's about right, isn't it?
I like it, yeah.
All these romantic interactions turn us into the people we are today, as I said, learning lessons that lead us to the right partner in the end.
I certainly had to kiss a few frogs before I met my princess. Princess. I don't like it when people say, this is my princess.
All right,
it's
princess.
It's creepy.
Yeah,
all right, princess is all right, but going, this is my princess, and you point to your wife or
that
girlfriend.
would be weird if you did that.
It's a bit...
Can you do it?
It's a bit girly.
Can we do a secret thing where you start doing it to Liz, but see what her reaction is, but do it in public places so she can't give you a reaction.
Who's my pretty little girl?
Here's my little princess, my wife.
Oh, it's awful, isn't it? I felt bad I've even said it.
Yeah.
You could say I had to water a few dead plants before I found my blossoming tree.
I like it, Hamish.
I had to live through some bad experiences to fully appreciate just how good I've got it now.
Me too. I know for a fact I would never appreciate the man I married if that messed up situation with my ex had not happened, unless John turns out to be another dud.
Imagine being described as a dud. It's a very pointed,
dud.
one syllable, but you're a dud.
Oh God, a dud. It's like the most offensive thing.
We went out for 12 years, but then I realised you were a dud.
It sums you up pretty badly, doesn't it?
I reckon John's safe. I reckon you've got a keeper. He's a world-class one.
Do you think?
Yeah.
The hairy keeper.
The hairy keeper. Like Hagrid.
Yeah, he is a bit like Hagrid.
We've all been there, crying in our cornflakes of broken hearts, questioning where it all went wrong, wondering if we're enough and why the rash from that fumble in the tent at Glastonbury is still itching. Well, today we want to find out the role booze has to play in all of this. If we met lovers when drinking, were our relationships destined to fail from the get-go? And can booze become the only thing that two people have in common?
Yep, certainly.
It certainly can.
It certainly can.
100%.
I want to start by saying, Hamish, one thing I never did after that situation with my ex was seek support from anyone. I partly felt like it was my fault and hoped to just brush it under the carpet and forget about it, which I thought I had. But I guess our clever bodies keep a score. So I hope today that we can give a little advice on how to avoid choosing someone that doesn't give you the love that you deserve. And you can guess already, Haim, what the best way to do this is.
Eating plenty of carrots, is it?
No, that's for seeing in the dark.
Oh, sobriety?
Yes, of course, it's sobriety, Hamish.
So let's start by chatting about some ways we met short-lived sweethearts in the past.
Short-lived sweet. That was one-night stands. I thought it's a nicer way of saying... Because sometimes there's nothing wrong with a one-night stand.
Nothing wrong.
It can be a short-lived sweetheart, and that's okay as long as it's consensual.
Short-lived sweetheart to me sounds like they passed away soon after you had your way with them.
That has happened. So where were your usual pick-up points? We're talking about here about the start of a relationship.
Okay, yeah.
Apart from the public losing Clapham Common, Hamish...
How do you know about that?
Where were some places that you met ladies?
Well, see, you've written a huge list, which we'll get to in a moment, and I looked at your list and it made me realise you were much better at picking up people than I was.
Yeah.
My list is very, very small. Dance floors at music festivals.
Okay.
Right, I was never one, and you might have been, that could just walk up to a table of strangers at a pub, sit myself down, and just pick up the hottest girl in the bunch.
Do you come here often?
Do you come here often? Get your coat, you pulled. The other one, on a dance floor, if we were both drunk enough, this was the key, for my dance moves to look half decent to both of us,
Yep.
I might get lucky enough to get a kiss. So dance halls are quite handy. Otherwise, my tactic was friend zone the hell out of a girl over multiple years, wait for her heart...
So patient, Hamish.
Yeah. And then wait for her heart to be broken, and she slowly realises that I'm the only man left, and then marry them.
That is hilarious.
That is my pick-up point really is just a long game.
Years in. Years of work.
Years in, like family, friend amount of years that you know them.
I actually think that is the best possible way to meet someone.
I think that's the easiest way for a long-term relationship.
Absolutely.
But it's not cool.
No.
Cool is your list of places you picked up people.
It's not cool when you're getting various venereal diseases, Hamish, from these.
Not now, but at the time, I reckon if you were like 16, like, guess what? I got chlamydia. I'm like, that's pretty cool. They've had sex.
True. Yeah, who had thought chlamydia could be cool?
Yeah, I just have a cold and I'm not happy about it.
No, I've got chlamydia.
Sweet.
Yeah, nice one, mate. So where I met lovers originally was at clubs, bars, pubs, dance floor, planes.
Yeah.
I hope to share a taxi from the airport.
It wasn't just a desire to do the Mile
No,
High
just
Club.
I could sit next to someone. If they were mildly good looking, I'd be like, all right, we can get this on.
Yeah.
And then we'd get...
Did you ever pull in a plane?
Yes, yeah, many times. Yep.
Mile High Club?
No, I never did it in the toilets. I don't want to do sex in toilets. It just doesn't appeal to me. Festivals, kebab shops,
shops.
Yeah, just
pause
after
there for
the
a
club,
second. Yeah.
sharing a chicken biryani.
The garlic breath, though. I'm impressed.
No, who cares about garlic breath when you're 15 pints in? No one. Taxi ranks.
Yeah.
Sharing a taxi is
Similar.
cheaper as well. It's always to do with my finances more than anything else.
Yeah.
The gutter. I met a lot of people in the gutter. I met an ex that I was with for 2 years, hello Aidan, in a bar in Thailand, and all he said was, I'd never met him before, all he said is, are you coming back to mine?
Yeah,
And I was all right then, I'm off.
That is confident. I
was
like
with
it.
him for 2 years from that one line. Yeah. No other conversation.
How attractive was he?
He was lovely, yeah.
He must have been.
Yeah, it was nice.
He's obviously done that chat up line in the past and it's worked.
Yeah, it worked a treat. I was like, yeah, I'm coming back to yours.
Skip all the bullshit. Yeah. Come back to mine.
I moved in about a week later. John was actually the first person I ever met for lunch with no alcohol on a date. Yeah, so that just proves I was looking for something different subconsciously. Mm-hmm. As you can hear, all of the places we met partners were in environments that were surrounded with alcohol. When in these establishments, it's likely that if you're listening to this podcast, you were probably very inebriated when the initial interactions took place. There was probably a bit of pint downing, some inhibitions getting flushed down the lav, and as the drinks piled up, the chances of you going home alone becomes less likely. And before you know it, you're in a weird bloke's flat, flipping through his record collection, wondering why he has a Craig David album, eh?
Imagine. I've never met a girl that just had a flat full of Craig David albums.
Oh, that would be your dream woman, wouldn't it?
That would be my dream woman, yeah. Ah, well, I married a different woman.
Yeah,
Not
good.
My dream woman, but my wife. Most of these sexy run-ins don't go anywhere. They're just what both parties set out to do. A consensual one-night stand that ends in an awkward kiss on the cheek, a fake number written on a beer mat, and perhaps herpes. They might not be a person you would have hooked up with without 5 tequila shots, but you had fun, and even though nothing will come of it, it's part of your sexual adventure. No problem. The latex rubber glove situation is a bit cringy, but nothing hair of the dog won't dissolve.
What, the latex rubber glove situation?
Yeah.
Let's not go into that, Hamish. I don't think we need to know about
better
that.
left unsaid, in case the mother is listening.
Oh, my mind is reeling. But what happens if from this rendezvous in a nightclub, you decide you quite like this person and you start a relationship with them? Is starting out a partnership after meeting in a club okay?
Statistics show that the most successful relationships happen when people have been friends for a long time before. Yes, go my long-term plan.
Yes, go.
In fact, 2/3 of relationships start in this way with either a work colleague, school or uni mate, or someone in your group of friends you've known for a while. Interestingly, people are meeting less at clubs and bars than ever before.
60% of gay couples first meet online compared to 28% of heterosexual couples, and meeting someone by chance is not very common now either. People are more in charge of their dating lives, it seems, than back in our day, Hamish. But even though people are meeting first online sometimes, the initial rendezvous is usually drinks and dinner, all in places drowning with booze. Hamish, why do you think it's a bad idea to start going out with somebody when all you do is get wasted together?
Yeah, it's never a good foundation to build a relationship on.
No, I don't think so.
I think people get pissed on a first date to avoid awkwardness and in the hope that, well, we'll just talk better if we're drunk.
Yeah.
But they're leaky foundations.
Yes.
Particularly because I think when you are drunk, everyone is attractive, and it's better to figure out if you actually fancy the person you're on a date with sober.
Yes. I mean, it's such a fundamental thing, isn't it? You've got to fancy someone. But if you're drunk and hammered, it doesn't really matter who they are or what they look like. You're like, just mate, come on, let's go.
Absolutely.
And then there's the connection. I think when you're meeting someone for the first time when hammered, you're not sure how real the connection is between that person, are you? You are having feelings that are fake because of the booze that's pumping around in your body.
Vaginas are absolute magic, and Ollie is here to give them the respect they deserve. That means shame-free supplements made with clinically studied ingredients to keep your pH in check and your pleasure a priority. Put yourself on top. Go to Ollie.com today. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
On with everyone after a drink, and everyone is funny.
Yes.
Maybe figure out the truth before that.
But also, Hamish, it means for us, because we're like that everyone is a potential sexual partner.
That's also true. That was the point.
It's like we've got the pick of the crowd. There's no, like, shoving a spear in a barrel for a fish.
Yes, but
we're like, we've got the whole ocean available to us.
Your experience is everyone was available, so you had sex with lots of people.
Yeah.
Me, everyone was available, so I just felt very, very rejected because I never had sex with anyone.
Yeah, I was the one stabbing the spear. You were just like, had a fishing rod that never caught anything.
You've written here, don't dribble on my tie.
Yeah.
But that is actually a genuine thing, as in that you can fuck up a great date with a wonderful person by going in drunk.
Yes, of course.
What if you go in drunk and they're not drunk? I think it's kind of like expected that you would have one or two drinks before a date to calm the nerves.
Yeah.
What if you go for it and they are not into that, and then you're the only drunk one?
Yeah, and it's the one.
And she's the best person ever, or the best person ever.
Oh, you'd feel awful. Imagine that hungover. You'd just be like, oh God, I met the best person last night, but I was absolutely hammered.
Dribbled on their tie.
Yeah.
Why are you wearing a tie to a date?
I always wear ties to dates. It might seem a bit of an intense thought for the first date, but if you're going to end up spending years of your life with them, most of this will probably be sober. So figure out what they're really like.
It might seem a bit of an intense thought on a first date to think long term, but if you are going to end up with a person sitting opposite you for the rest of your life, hopefully most of that life is going to be spent sober. If one or both of you drunk, hopefully it's just like periods of being drunk. Most of your life is sober, and shit gets real dull when kids enter the frame. So you want to figure out that they are nice and reliable sober, rather than a bit of fun when they're drunk.
Yeah, there's more to people than their drunk selves, isn't there?
Yes.
It does take it took me 25 years to realise that, though.
Yeah.
So emotionally, financially, geographically, and for the long-term physical and mental health, the person that you choose to spend the rest of your life with is the most important decision you are likely to make in your life. It might be a good idea to make this important decision while you're sober.
Yes. Vic, is it ever a good idea to start something when drinking?
No, it is not a good basis for love, I'd say, Hamish. But of course, we're not talking about everybody here. I actually, drank with my husband when I first met him.
Me too.
We went on dates and we got pissed. We understand lots of couples meet after a few bevies down the dog and duck. And they also go on to have happy relationships. Nothing wrong with that. But what about when people stick together for no other reason than booze? They stay together because they're too sourced to do anything about it. You end up staying in the wrong relationship because of booze.
Give us a few examples of you staying in relationships that were not suited.
Example 1, Hamish, is my beer goggles. My judgment was often skewed when I first met men. I was drunk and I'm a romantic, so I daydreamt that they were the perfect person for me. Even on a first meeting, I was already kind of signing my signature in their surname. I never waited and I always jumped straight in. I didn't consider if he liked me or how much I liked him. I was a bit naive with men, I think, growing up, Hamish. I just went for it.
My take on that is, and I bet you might have it as well, when you've got beer goggles plus you're a people pleaser, you take someone home that you don't fancy, and then I never really knew how to sort of break up with someone that you've had a one night stand with. So they would just sort of fizzle for a bit.
Yes.
Or you would keep texting them, you don't fancy them, or you would ghost them and then feel awful. That is just not a cool way to treat anyone.
It is a definite people pleaser issue, perhaps, staying in relationships for too long. I've written here that I am non-confrontational.
Yeah.
So there was other reasons why I stayed in relationships, was because I was shit at finishing them. And I just thought, I'm going to plod along with this and hope that it works out. And of course it never did, because I wasn't really happy, but I was just too scared to upset someone.
And then you get to the stage you're like, I hope they break up with me.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how to do it. And then you probably start acting out, going that they should break up with me, I'm not behaving myself. And then it's just really toxic.
It's ridiculous, isn't it? Because I often, this is the word I'm going to use, which is really weird. I felt obliged, Hamish, to stay in relationships sometimes.
Okay. Why?
I just thought it was the right thing to do because everyone else was doing it. And I just thought, well, I should be in a relationship too. So therefore, I'm going to forgive the faults of the person that I'm with, because perhaps that's what people have to go through.
Right.
I thought relationships were more like challenges, that you had to forgive people's weird behaviour and just get on with it because that's what makes something strong. But actually that was always my biggest mistake in going into any relationship, was that I left myself at the front door and it all became about them and helping them and making them better and lifting them up rather than them lifting me up, if you know what I mean.
Well, there is that saying that relationships take a lot of work.
Yeah.
And I think that one side of that coin is what you've just described, where you go, maybe this is just the work.
Yes.
Like, this is really hard, but maybe that's just what people mean when they say relationship take a lot of work. I actually think relationships should take no work to sort at the start. And then, a relationship that lasts years takes a lot of work. But the beginning bit should be fun. It should be, you should be surprised by how little work it is, I think.
I'm always amazed when I know people have met the person that's right from them, because they just say, oh my God, it's easy.
Yeah.
It's suddenly easy. Like, what's happened? And I always feel really pleased when people say that. And I remember saying it about John when I met him. I was like, Mum, he's just so easy. There's no problems. There's no weirdness. There's no ghosting, or he doesn't text back, or it's just become really, really easy. And that's how I knew. And I think relationships are supposed to be easy, actually, even in the long term. You might have your ups and downs, just little things here and there. But I think a really solid relationship is easy.
Absolutely.
Example 2, Hamish, love this, is low self-esteem. Alcohol meant I didn't really care about myself or my body, as we've heard. I gave myself away for the enjoyment of others, which resulted in me being stuck with people that were not suited to me because I was too pissed to care.
Yeah. So you were happy that someone said yes, basically.
Yeah, and I was willing to put the work in because I didn't really think my opinion of the whole thing was very worthy. Awful, really. Example 3, the sheep. I did what everybody else was doing. My friends slept around, so I did too. They had boyfriends, so I did too. I just followed the crowd. When in fact, I should have waited until I really liked someone. I should have dated someone, gone on a few nice walks on the beach and done all the normal things you should do in dating, rather than just sleeping with someone and then being in a relationship with them. I call it upside down love, Hamish. I started relationships the wrong way round. I slept with them first and then found out they were wankers.
Yes.
Whereas I should have found out they were wankers and then not slept with them.
Then slept with them.
Yeah, and then slept with them anyway.
This is interesting. So you mentioned the fact you slept around at bars and clubs or whatever. Were you actually a big dater?
No, I never dated.
Really? Okay.
Never dated at all, no. If I started a relationship, it was because I'd slept with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you go on a date after you've had a one night stand?
I never had dates.
Still not, yeah.
Yeah, never had dates. It was either I slept with you one night, never saw you again, or slept with you and then we started some sort of relationship.
Yeah. I'm the same. I reckon I've been on less than 5 dates in my life.
Yeah. I think maybe if we were single now, Hamish, things would be different. We'd be dating like Lucy is, like 5. You get 5 different dates in a day nowadays.
Don't say that. What if someone that she's dating is listening to the podcast?
She's not having 5 dates in a day at the moment.
No,
she's met a lovely man, actually.
You're the one.
Yes, exactly. I could never have had a successful relationship, Hamish, because they all started with booze and they ended with booze. I was drunk, so I would have thought a plank was fun and outgoing, quite honestly. I drowned out everything that I had in common with people, so I had no idea who I was or who they were until it was too far along for me to get out. I thought about this today and I remembered that particular guy, and I always thought he had a funny look in his eye.
So you met him in a bar?
I met him in a bar.
Yeah.
And when I met him, I thought, he's quite smart, he's quite intellectual, and he's quite funny and good looking. And I thought all of these positive things. I never stopped to question him. But I always thought he had a funny look in his eye, okay, which is an odd thing to say. But I was too pickled to listen to my gut. But I think maybe my heavy drinking diminished what my gut was telling me. Maybe we can't hear our intuition when alcohol is involved.
Sure. So your short-term lifestyle led you into having low self-esteem, which in turn led you onto a relationship that was toxic. Is that right?
Yeah, so over the years of heavy drinking, alcohol gave me a low sense of worth. And I stayed with that guy because I didn't feel good, which in turn made me not strong enough to leave. The more unkind he was, the more I hated the fact that I didn't leave. So the more I drank, and the cycle went on. A classic case of a battered wife that is too downtrodden to leave the perpetrator.
How long did this go on for?
2 years.
And how long from the start of it until he started hitting you?
Well, he only hit me once.
Okay, yeah.
It was only
or
one
being
situation.
Emotionally abusive.
He would do things. I was so naive. I always see the good in people, Hamish,
Yeah.
and that is part of my problem. I always had hope for people, even if they acted strangely. And I've never been around someone who wasn't very nice to people. And when he did things that weren't very nice, I just thought, oh, that's weird. Like, why is he doing that? Maybe he's drunk, or maybe he's in a mood, and I would forgive it because I think, oh, that's how odd. I didn't really consider the fact that he was potentially just a bad person.
Yeah.
I just thought, oh, that's a bit strange, his behaviour, and I kind of let it go. Whereas in fact, I should have been culminating all of these weird behaviours and going, actually, this adds up to somebody not being emotionally well.
Do you know how early on you started seeing red flags?
Very early on,
Really?
I would say.
Yeah.
I've always left people in the past, but I'm going to give this one a go. So I'm going to try and be there for him through his hard times. And if he has a bit of an anger issue, I'm going to try and support him through it, because that's perhaps what you do to have a successful relationship. Because all of my past relationships had not worked out. I thought, right, I'm going to try and do better in this one, and I'm going to support him through the bad, because that's what you're supposed to do. Whereas in fact, that was the biggest mistake I ever made.
Do you think any of this would have happened if you weren't a drinker?
Good question, Hamish. I don't blame myself for what happened, but no, 100% this would never have happened to me if I was sober. He, of course, was to blame for that one violent attack. He was a bit of a psycho, it turned out. But if I had not been a drinker, I could have worked out earlier what he was like and been strong enough to leave, I think. It was the alcohol and my bad behaviour and my failed relationships made me choose somebody that wasn't suitable to me. I would have never have gone home with him on that first night. I would have never accepted his attitude, never found him attractive, never laughed at his jokes, never considered being with someone like him. He was not compatible with me. He wasn't a nice guy. But alcohol meant I settled for someone that was not good for me. It wasn't my fault. I blame the drug. Alcohol affected my decision making. Simple as that.
And the dangerous thing about alcohol in this situation, which I'm sure other people can relate to, is you were pissed when you met him, which meant you went home with him initially. And then he was horrible during the relationship, and you turned to alcohol to deal with that as well. So you're sort of in this horrible cycle that sobriety seems a long way away.
Absolutely. In fact, sobriety was never on my radar then, because I wanted to numb him out.
Yeah.
I felt really unhappy and I wasn't sure what to do, and I was just going along with what he wanted all the time, and I just felt completely lost, and I totally lost myself to him. He chipped away at me very, very, very slowly, which is what these kind of manipulators do. They chip away at you until you think every situation is your fault.
And your example was quite extreme, but I'm sure anyone who feels disconnected with their partner at any stage can tend to drink. Well, let's just drink because when we drink, we get on. Or when we drink, we have better sex. Or when we drink, everything seems all right. It doesn't need to be as extreme a situation as yours for people to resort to drinking to just spice up a relationship that seems to have gone a bit duddy.
It's either spice it up or numb it out, I think, is the two choices that you have. And I think if you meet someone when you're drunk, you're used to getting drunk with them, and that makes everything okay. So you just continue to do that, even though you've probably got nothing in common with them, even though the relationship is obviously failing, you just continue going because it just seems too hard to leave.
Of course. So I want to take a moment here to have a quick chat about domestic violence, if that's okay with you, Vic. The World Health Organization estimates that roughly 55% of all domestic abuse perpetrators were drinking alcohol prior to the assault, and women who abused are 15 times more likely to abuse alcohol themselves, like we said.
Yeah.
So it's twofold. The abuser is more than often drunk, and the victim tends to turn to alcohol to numb the abuse. Either way, people are stuck.
Scary stats, Hamish. I think alcohol means you can miss the signs that a person could potentially be harmful one day. Like we ignore all those red flags to do with alcohol, we can also ignore relationship red flags for a long time as well. It means you lose the choice and you jump in because they seem nice after a few drinks and then you're in too deep.
If you don't mind me asking, Vic, what were those signs for you with him? You said he had that look in his eye that you didn't quite trust. What else came up?
Yeah, I didn't trust my intuition with him at all, actually. I actually knew that he'd beaten someone up before.
Oh, he told you that?
He told me that, but I just kind of laughed it off. I don't think I took it seriously. That's how naive I was. I didn't take it seriously. He called me a few names when he was drunk. He called me a bitch once, and I was like, oh, that's weird. Like, why is he doing that? I thought maybe it was because where he was from or his culture or made him more aggressive or more abusive. He made me feel insecure, of course. He shoved me a couple of times. He kind of shoved me over.
Always when he was drunk?
No, not always when he was drunk.
Aggressive guy, yeah.
He just wasn't very nice to me. He was cruel about other people. Just random strangers, he'd say horrible things about people's appearance, which I thought wasn't very nice. Anyway, he was just angry and I drank it all away. It was very subtle until it wasn't, I guess. I wish I'd been sober, Hamish. I would have trusted my instinct more and tuned into myself, loved myself enough to leave. But we live and learn, Hamish. Sure, I could have done without that whole situation, but I guess it's part of my journey.
So what happens when you stay with someone with whom all you do is drink together?
I mean, there's intimacy at first. Like when you are with someone in a relationship, their touch is different, their eye contact is different. So therefore you have a knowing of who that person is and you can be intimate with them without any weirdness.
Sure. You also realise faster that you have absolutely nothing in common with the person. If you're both sober, you'll realise, oh shit, nah, we just get on when we're drunk.
Yeah.
It's all invented. It's all alcohol-induced. It's not real.
Yeah. If a relationship is covered in booze, you get bored of each other. There's nothing new. All you do is get pissed together. So there's nothing good in that, is there? Nothing flourishes from that.
Of course. As a proof of that, there's a higher rate of divorce if both drink. That's 60%.
It can affect finances. So if you're both boozing together every night or every weekend, that's going to cost money, isn't it, if you're going on big benders?
Yep.
So that leads to stress, which leads to arguments. So it plays a role in your finances as well.
I would love to know the percentage number of arguments that are to do with finances.
Yeah, a lot.
It's got to be high, isn't
Yeah.
it? You need alcohol more and more to be with that person. This is the issue with addiction, when you realise that you're not really with the right person and drinking seems to help that.
Yep, for sure. You accept behaviours that are not okay and you put up with them because you're too pissed to leave.
The next point's interesting. We said more conflict. Both of us drunk with our partners when we met them.
Yep.
And the way I look at it is we got lucky, because that is a volatile situation. We could have said the wrong thing. We could have cheated. We could have had an aggressive episode. All of those things are on the table if you are both drinking a lot.
Yeah.
So we both got lucky. We ended up being with the right person and then going sober. But not everyone gets lucky like us.
Yeah.
There's a lot of danger in the air of drinking a lot with a potential partner.
So much so. Hamish, did you ever find that different alcohols made you feel different ways? So I know when I drank red wine, I would get all emotional and sort of a bit angry.
Yeah.
And white wine, I would get a bit moody. And gin is supposed to make you cry.
Yeah, depressing,
and I think all the harder spirits are supposed to make you aggressive.
Yeah.
I do think there's something in that.
Stella is an aggressive one.
Oh, yeah, supposed to be a bit fighty, isn't it? Yeah.
I was such a lightweight that I quickly realised that any kind of spirit is not for me.
Right.
So I was pretty much entirely beer or cider.
Okay.
Pretty much just beer. So I was quite lucky. And I never drunk and got fighty. Like I never wanted to go out swinging and hit anyone.
That doesn't surprise me.
So I was sort of, I was one of the people who you probably wouldn't be able to tell if I was drunk when I was drunk.
Oh, really?
I was quite good at holding it together, yeah.
Okay, so that's good. So it didn't cause you more conflict, but it does a lot of people.
Oh, yeah, for sure. In my last relationship, all of our arguments were because we'd had a drink.
Right.
I don't think I've argued with anyone in my life sober.
Really?
But drunk in a relationship, arguments about... Because then things that the argument is not about come up. It's always.
Oh, yeah. That's when it goes really messy, isn't it? Think pulling things out of the past.
Yeah.
You did this, you did that.
And you start logging them. I'll save that one. I will save that one and bring it up on a choice moment.
I do think relationships start to fail, in my experience, when you start saying, like, you are like this and you are like that, and accusatory terms being flung around. Or the worst one is, you are like your mother. You are just like your dad. All of these things that you bring up from the past to use against someone. I mean, it's nasty. It gets nasty.
For sure.
All of this can lead to low self-esteem, and you end up feeling not worthy of happiness, which is a really sad stage to get to. Everybody is worthy of having a happy relationship if you want one.
Resenting each other's habits, I would suggest that can still happen if you're sober.
Yes.
You live with someone long enough, there are little things that they do which will start to really piss you off.
That is so true. Even things to do with, like, leaving the cap off the toothpaste.
Should we have a quick chat about any habits that our husbands and wives pick us off?
Yeah, towels on the floor, toilet seat up.
Mm-hmm.
There's loads, isn't there?
I am hyper aware of Liz's trick of telling me I'm really good at things which are jobs that she doesn't want to do.
Oh yes, I do that
like,
too.
Hey, you're the best doing the bins.
Yes.
Like, you just don't want to do the fucking bins.
John's
I'm
the
not
best
the best at doing the bins.
Men do the bins though, don't
You're
they?
the best at nappies.
It's a bit sexist, but we like that men do the bins. We don't want to do the bins.
Bins and nappies.
One problem that can happen is if one person stops, which of course is brilliant, and then the other one doesn't like it. That can cause all sorts of conflict.
That happens a lot. We get emails about that constantly. And finally, obviously, there is no true connection. It's not real love if it is alcohol soaked.
Yeah, and alcohol takes the authenticity out of new romances and longer ones. You possibly make poor decisions and end up with someone who influences your drinking and thinks you're a party pooper if you don't join in.
Either way, pouring alcohol all over any relationship will set it alight. Better off just doing it sober, being genuine so you know when someone is a complete dick, or if you're lucky and found yourself a long-term forever partner.
Also, there is something to be said about being happy on your own.
Yes.
I think we are stuck in some very old-fashioned ways in life. You don't have to have a partner if you don't want one. And if you've had these toxic relationships, the best thing is to just be on your own for a while and enjoy that and get to know yourself and love yourself without having to be codependent on somebody else.
It's a sad reality that a lot of us feel more afraid of being alone than we do about being with the wrong person. You go, well, at least it's companionship.
Yeah.
At least I'm married because everyone else is married. At least I've got a boyfriend or girlfriend because that's what you do. Like, the fear of being alone is vast. It completely washes your senses and your logical mind of going, well, I don't want to be alone, so I'll just stick with this person because, you know, they're not that bad.
Yeah.
You know, they've got some faults, but they're not that bad. I've got to stick with them forever.
But I think that has to do with the identity, doesn't it, Hamish? That we can't identify as someone who is alone, like we talked about in the last episode. But actually, I think identifying of somebody that lives alone would be absolutely liberating, wouldn't it? And go, I'm happy with who I am and being alone in my own company. I don't need somebody else's bullshit. I think, Hamish, we need to give our lifers a shout out today.
Our princes and princess.
Our princess.
John the prince. And
We couldn't do any of this if they weren't behind us, looking after our kids or hanging the washing out or giving us moral support.
It might have taken us both a few rounds to get there, but as we said, all the fuck-ups we've made lead us to where we are today.
I think our advice today is to start it well, not at a taxi rank at 5 a.m. Go and meet sober. Go for walks and cinema dates. Hold hands in garden centres. Take it slow and listen to your gut, because you are sober and you can tune into what it's telling you and avoid getting stuck in relationships that should have never started in the first place.
If you are actually suggesting that I meet up with someone at a garden centre for a date, I can't live with that.
Oh, there's some nice garden centres around, Hamish.
No.
Yeah.
That would be the red flag for me.
You could pick a gnome together.
Yeah.
No place like Gnome.
Yeah. That would be a red flag. Should we meet up at the local garden centre? Like, fuck, no. I'll do anything else. Imagine Bunnings.
I totally disagree with you.
Yeah.
I'd love a date at Bunnings.
I'm all up for sober dates, but like, let's do something fun.
Yeah.
Let's go...
Come on then.
difficult,
Come on
isn't it?
then, yeah.
My first
Skydiving.
one was paintballing. I was like, I hate paintballing.
Why would you go paintballing?
Paintballing.
Hamish, go to a garden centre. Take Liz to a garden centre this week and come back afterwards and tell me that you didn't love it.
Okay.
There's usually a little cafe. You can look at ornaments. There's some nice plants. You can get some herbs for your garden. It's a very sober thing to do.
It's great when you're married to them, but as a first date, let's get to know each other and go buy a gnome. It's odd. It's definitely odd.
This is a toxic
It's a
relationship.
good thing you're not single. Of course, remember that everyone is worthy of love, even us too, Vic.
Yeah, it's true. And that took me a long time to accept when I even met my husband because of that shit situation. It took me a long time to understand that I was worthy of the love of someone else. I wasn't just in this because he liked me. I was in it because I liked him and I could see that he was a good egg. And I only did that because we spent so much time together sober very early on in our relationship. We weren't drunk all the time like I'd always had been. I hadn't met him in a nightclub. So therefore I was able to see the good in him and the good twinkle in his eye rather than me being worried and not listening to my gut.
I have a theory on this, and I've never figured out a way to word it without sounding like an arsehole.
Okay, that's fine. You often sound like an arsehole.
Yeah, it's to do with this worthiness of love thing. I think that the key to a happy relationship is to have complete confidence that the person that you're with could choose to be with anyone in the world, but they've chosen you.
Yeah.
And you also could choose to be with anyone in the world, but you've chosen them. That sounds arrogant because, of course, I could not be with anyone in the world. But I think having that confidence that you have something to offer anyone and your wife or husband or whatever has got something to offer anyone, but you've chosen each other.
Yeah.
And reminding yourself of that as often as possible is a good life goal, or
Yeah.
good relationship advice.
I totally agree with you, Hamish. I think that's lovely. And also just understanding that sometimes relationships change. And like for us, we're in that stage where we just kind of meet each other in the hallway with a bottle of milk, or we're changing the bed because Freddie's pissed the bed again. Like there's stages and there's chapters to it. And our chapter at the moment is that we're so busy that we're exhausted and we pass out in bed at 8 o'clock at night because we've had such a huge day. But there's going to be another chapter and we accept those chapters and we don't have huge expectations of each other. And I think that is the basis of a good relationship, is that you accept that sometimes things aren't always going to be all lusty and all madly in love all the time, and that you are creating a long-term friendship with someone. I think that is the most important thing. It's not about sex and hanging off the chandeliers and all of those things. There's going to be chapters in your life where things change and that doesn't happen, and you're going to feel different, especially when the menopause is coming up and all of those things. Relationships change like humans change. And it's about accepting those changes and just trying to stick with it if it makes you feel good.
Amen to that.
Amen to that,
Hallelujah.
baby. God, we're like fucking experts on this, aren't we, Hamish?
Yeah. I feel like we're Oprah.
We are. I'm a bit like we are a bit like Oprah or Jerry Springer.
Let's write a review for our own podcast and describe us as Oprah.
Hamish is so much like Oprah Winfrey, and Vic, she's so funny, like
She's
Jerry
Jerry.
Springer. Let's have some quotes.
Yes.
Sometimes you need to give up on people, not because you don't care, but because they don't.
Nice.
Oh, that resonates with me hugely, Hamish. I should have given up much earlier with that toxic one.
And this one is from Robin Williams, one of my favourite humans ever. I used to think the worst thing in life was to end up all alone. It's not. The worst thing in life is ending up with people who make you feel all alone.
Yeah.
Good distinction there.
Yeah, it's good advice. So yeah, booze, relationships, doesn't always work, does it,
No,
Haim?
it doesn't.
It's kind of a toxic entity that can make everything go wrong. So stepping into anything sober is always going to be the best choice for any relationship. I'm going to hand it over to you, Hamish, because we're going to end with a email that we got from somebody.
Yes, so this one is from Katie from London. She emailed us at vicandhamish@soberawkward.com. She is over 7 months sober now, and her first email to us when she was 12 weeks sober, so she's been listening to the podcast for some time. She said, "Firstly, I just want to say a really big thank you for your podcast. I woke up from a pre-Christmas dinner party after drinking too much wine and decided enough was enough, and I didn't want to have another day filled with anxiety and shame. We can all relate to that.
Yes.
Katie. I found your podcast that very same day, and I genuinely don't think I could have done it without listening to you both and Lucy. I started from the beginning, on my daily walks. You probably hear this a lot, as you should, but just in case you don't, your podcasts aren't just going out into the void unheard, they are really helping people like me. I've done sober weddings, listening to Hamish's experience with this really helped, sober hen weekends, sober ski trips, sober summer holidays, sober Christmas and New Year's, sober birthdays. I've even turned down free champagne a few times now. I really do feel like it's a newfound superpower. Doing this alone would have been so much harder, but doing it listening to you both has made me feel like I'm not alone, so thank you. I just need to figure out how to give up sugar now, like you. Yeah. Now that's a real addiction for me.
I love it. I love that little end there. It's like, I'm doing really well, but I'm not 100% perfect.
Positive. Here's the real truth.
Nobody's 100% perfect. No. We're all a bit fucked up.
Sugar is a tricky one.
I want to say thanks for everybody for listening to this episode, because I realised I was a bit blubby and a bit tearful at the beginning. You know, I think it's very important to share our past and our histories and find out why it makes us who we are. And I think if you are struggling with a partner who is toxic or has been aggressive to you, the best thing for you to do today is to reach out for help, whether that's a helpline or go and see your doctor or talk to a therapist. Just talk to someone, even if it's just your best mate. Sit down and have a chat about what's going on. Share the reality of the situation, because I wish I had done that and I would have left it a lot quicker. Thanks for listening, everybody. Bye. If you're questioning your relationship with booze, you're struggling to moderate, or your hangovers are causing anxiety, it might be time to reach out for some support.
Yeah, just talk to a mate about how you're feeling, contact a local doctor, find an AA or sobriety group. Vic's got one.
Yeah, just head to www.cuppa.community.
Remember, if you're questioning yourself, it might be time to seek support.
Even though this journey can be awkward, it is definitely worth it. And if you've enjoyed the Sober Awkward podcast, don't forget to review it, rate it, and share it with your mates.
Do they have to share it with their mates?
Yeah, of course they do. I'm not doing this for nothing, Hamish. Bloody hell.
How do they share it?